Washington tonight, thank you. Baghdadi was evil personified, a mass murderer, serial rapist, brutal con man. He led the most barbaric terrorist organization on earth. He directed a genocide against Yazidis and Christians while forcing Yazidi women and children to become sex slaves. He ordered his enemies burned alive in cages. You might remember this scene, heads chopped off. He also ordered and inspired terrorist attacks all over the globe. Hundreds of thousands of people lost their lives because of ISIS and Baghdadi. But this is how the Washington Post chose to remember him in an obituary entitled Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, austere religious scholar at the helm of Islamic State, dies at 48. Austere religious scholar died at 48? Jeff Bezos, your newspaper? Let me educate your oblivious, deranged newspaper. Baghdadi was no scholar. He was a radical Islamic extremist, an evil SOB. He got cornered by members of the toughest, greatest military heroes on the face of this earth, and then blew himself up like the coward he is. And Baghdadi is, I'm pretty certain, rotting in hell as we speak. And Saturday's successful operation was named after 26-year-old Kayla Mueller. Kayla was a humanitarian worker, you may remember, kidnapped by ISIS in 2013 after leaving a Doctors Without Borders facility in Syria. She was killed in captivity in 2015, but not before being raped repeatedly by Al-Baghdadi. Kayla was one of many Americans killed by ISIS. A young aid worker named Peter Kassi, he was also kidnapped and murdered by ISIS. Remember 2014, journalist James Foley, beheaded by this evil terror group. And that same year, another American journalist named Stephen Sotloff, beheaded. And let's not forget American soldiers and civilians that have been killed by ISIS terror attacks all over the world. And thanks to President Trump, and of course our brave men and women in the U.S. military. And you know how I always separate the 1% of those that abuse the powerful tools of intelligence versus the 99% of the brave patriots in our intelligence community. They deserve a lot of credit tonight. Thanks to all of you. The caliphate has been defeated. It has been destroyed in Syria. The trail of ISIS devastation and horror is shocking. They turned many once great cities into rubble. Hundreds of thousands are dead as a result. Millions displaced. The world will never be the same. For the Washington Post, Jeff Bezos' newspaper, to ever refer to this terrorist scum as an austere religious scholar is sick, ugly, twisted, and exactly why America will never trust these corrupt mainstream media fake news outlets ever again. It's not just the Washington Post either, because instead of celebrating the death of the world's most wanted terrorist, many in the corrupt media mob, of course they use this weekend's operation, let's attack Donald Trump over this too. Take a look.
The raid that killed al-Baghdadi is both a military and political victory for the Trump administration, but some officials point out that it may say as much about the flaws in Trump's foreign policy as it does about how well it can work.
He sounded not like a president of the United States. He actually sounded like Saddam Hussein after torturing people, sounded like Muammar Gaddafi after he would torture people.
There's a long trail ahead of him actually finally releasing details, explicit details, some of which sort of echoed, and frankly, the crudeness you would often expect to hear maybe from ISIS about the whimpering, screaming Baghdadi.
I think from a standpoint of symbolism and importance of the country, taking down the Osama bin Laden had a lot more meaning than this.
Can we at least agree that the world is a better place without this guy in it? Trump or the Baghdadi?
As I've said before, I'll say it again. President Trump, in this atmosphere, cured cancer. Those on the left and the media mob, everybody, Democrats, they would find a way to want to impeach him for curing cancer. Now, if he gave $1 million to every American, they demanded his impeachment for that. Why didn't he give $5 million? This is a psychotic rage, and this president knows no bounds. It is for every Democrat, you have to suspend all intellectual honesty, all connection to objective truth, reason, and God-given common sense to have this sick psychotic rage. You got the Democrats furious that Pelosi and Chip were not notified in advance of the raid. Really? The lack of self-awareness should be pretty shocking because, after all, you have the compromised, corrupt, lying, coward Adam Schiff. He's among the most prolific leaders in Washington in the swamp. No other president has had to deal with their conversations with prime ministers and presidents leaked completely. And by the way, let's put this all in perspective. In 2012, well, Obama, Biden, their campaign slogan was, Osama bin Laden is dead. General Motors is alive. And they repeated that over and over and over again. But back then, the media mob, well, they covered the death of the world's most evil terrorist at a time. Well, they covered it a little differently. Let's take a look.
It is unbelievable what these men did.
Yeah.
And
For our country.
and what the president did as far as not being afraid to engage in what was really a high-risk operation.
The press releases have been quite jubilant. They have been completely bipartisan, congratulating President Obama.
The American people are giving President Obama strong approval ratings for getting Osama bin Laden, but the Bush team is trying to grab the credit.
President Obama showed this week he was as cool in the terrorist hunt as he was as president, as he was in the delegate hunt as a candidate back in 2008.
Now, because of the corrupt media mob's psychotic rage, hatred for the president, the world's most evil terrorist is referred to as an austere religious scholar by the Washington Post. And others work overtime to discredit, criticize the president's decision to take out this evil ISIS leader, the world's #1 terrorist. Make no mistake, the president made the right call. Our brave U.S. Special Forces, they took out an evil monster. And tonight, because of all of their heroic actions, the world is a safer place. Joining us now, author of The Rifleman, Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North.